Greetings, I am pleased to be part of this conference and will be speaking on yoga breathing for children and adolescents, emphasizing flow of the core. So I would like to mention these 5 challenges which can be managed well through yoga breathing. Anxiety, due to rapid changes, so all of us have experienced this during the pandemic. Many students in schools and universities have found a difficulty in focusing on their work because it's oscillating between online classes and in-person classes, and of course now optimistically we hope that it will continue as in-person. And during this time of being locked in, there has been increasing dependence on internet, which has been good for various things, but they're also excessively dependent in certain cases, which can be not good at all. So let's see how we can balance the benefit through yoga breathing. Finally, inactivity during this time for some children especially has resulted in weight gain, and overall it's good to have a sense of balance. So in this next slide, you can see that we're going to speak first on anxiety. In this article from Pediatric Neurology, which really emphasizes the clinical features which can arise as a result of anxiety related to nervous system dysregulation in children. Seems that if children experience prolonged anxiety, they have a number of problems related to somatic symptoms, executive function, which can influence their school activities, autonomic dysregulation, problems with digestion, sleep, and with their emotional behavior, especially with temper tantrums and anxiety. So this reflects in their breathing pattern. In this slide, you can see on the lower left part, autonomic dysregulation in children was associated with spontaneous breath holds, which showed that they are anxious and holding their breath abnormally. So firstly, one can see that when breathing is regulated in a healthy way, it can help to regulate the emotions and prevent this kind of normal breath hold. And this really started with early work from 1991 by Bloch, Lehmann and Aguilera from Paris, who looked at a very interesting point. Can we change our breathing pattern and get into an emotional state? Or when we are in an emotional state, does our breath pattern change? And it's all very cyclical. We can actually breathe into an emotion and use our breath to change our emotion. They classically worked out these 6 breathing patterns and the emotions which correspond to them, which are put up on the slide. And you can see that the changes occur in the regularity of the breath, in the depth, in the rhythm, and the duration of inhale to exhale. We have also worked out the breath patterns for yoga breathing practices. Here you can see Kapalabhati. Before Kapalabhati, very regular rhythm. During Kapalabhati, it becomes faster, obviously, as well as sharper inhale and exhale. Vastrika, the same here. The left side of the slide is the breathe pattern, and the right side is during Vastrika, where there is a slightly prolonged exhale and an increase in the depth. And the prolongation of exhale is best seen in bubbly breathing or flowering, where the person exhales with a sound, and that really is a sort of feedback, audio feedback for them to prolong their exhalation. A comparison was conducted by us, looking at the relative contribution of way in which alternate nostril breathing, Bhramari, Vastrika and Kapalabhati can change anxiety levels. These have been independently worked out, each of these practices, in different studies for different durations. The first time we put the practices together, do all of them reduce anxiety? Fact is, yes, significantly compared to the preceding state as well as compared to controls like breath awareness and quietness. So the marginally better effect with alternate nostril breathing. For anyone, child, an adolescent, or anyone indeed, who has anxiety can benefit from these breathing practices. Coming to the next question, can the breathing practices help in online learning and the difficulty in focusing? So again, a comparison of these 4 breathing practices for today, not just one of them, but all 4 in a single study, Kapalabhati, Anulom Vilom, Vastrika and Bhramari. And we found that all of them invariably increase the activation or annotation of neural resources. This was based on an event-related potential study using the P300 with the auditory overall paradigm. And it's very interesting then that in order to gear up for attention, one can use any one or indeed all of these yoga breathing practices to facilitate attention. Moving on to the third area, that is the dependence on internet. So I would like to speak on this, especially talking about the policies. So the excessive use of social media in itself may not be bad. Of course, the word here is excessive. So excessive is not, but it can impact various aspects of functioning. So this is where harm comes in. Like sleep, the fact that the person may choose it over exercise and even in-person relationships. So let's see where yoga breathing practice can come in. Here I'm going to mention how breathing practices influence the brain. So basically doing voluntary breath regulation, we activate the part of the brain for the frontal temporal insular cortices. And when we are breath away, we influence the insular cortex, which is the third among those listed here. This was shown in a very interesting study looking at breathing practice and the brain. Now, yoga breathing includes both voluntary breath regulation and breath awareness. So we can imagine that it will definitely activate the insula. So why are we interested in the insula? The insula, it has many very interesting functions. You can see this part of the brain shown here in yellow, front of and above the ear. It looks like a little seashell and has multiple functions. The one I would like to focus on is craving, because that is closely related to addictive behavior. You can see here that addicted individuals show reduced insular brain matter volume and activity, and hence if we can actually activate the insula through yoga breathing, maybe this could be one of the ways in which we can modify the excessive dependence on internet. So here is how otherwise the social media was to perform an action, we wait for a reaction, and the reaction was, and each time the dopamine spike occurs, it is believed to be channeled through a poorly functioning insula. So this is where the whole link can come in between yoga breathing and we did a preliminary study to look at yoga practitioners and whether their use of the smartphone would be different from those who never practice yoga. We had here two groups of university students, 142 each group from university, and there were yoga and non-yoga students on an based program. The yoga group had less scores, lower scores on the smartphone scale. Fewer of them had high scores. Very important is the third one. Fewer students in the yoga group had a tendency to wake up in the night, check their smartphone for any input, and this is one of the most disruptive behaviors if a person has excessive smartphone dependence and use. Because the waking up was the night would disrupt so many functions and activities. And also the overall nocturnal sleep, quantity and quality showed beneficial changes. Moving on to the last area, inactivity and weight gain. Again, being locked in and forced to not go out, many children not playing outdoors had shown during the pandemic excessive weight. So while any activity will be beneficial, particularly in this, I'd like to mention that though we think yoga breathing would involve just sitting in one place, even this practice can help in reducing weight and in increasing metabolic activity. So this 1973 paper has nothing to do with yoga, it's a reference article, or indeed all simple activities you can there to do each other. So if a person lies flat, that's their reference posture. And the point number 7 shows that when we half rise from the lying position, we really increase our oxygen consumed, which is a good indicator of metabolic health, by 118%. And with this massive increase, you can see that 9% increase in cross-legged and so on. So let's see now with yoga breathing. Almost all yoga breathing practices do increase the oxygen consumption. It's a very interesting feature. It's not because the work of breathing increases, but some other changes in the neural and endocrine axis. The maximum increase has been seen with one-on-one practice. A number of studies, right from the very earliest one up to more recent, where the range could be between 33 to 50%. This too acts as a form of calorie burning, which could be beneficial. So coming now to the last part, how can we create a situation of overall balance? Well, I'd like to mention two main areas. When we have a state, that is the first blue box, of dysregulated autonomic nervous system, it can take a number of problems in life, and especially if it happens in a childhood or adolescence, we predict a number of diseases later on in life, including the metabolic syndrome and all the consequences of that. We can prevent dysregulation of the autonomic nervous system, which indeed seems very possible to deep, slow, diaphragmatic breathing, which is a part of many yoga breathing practices, especially if we activate vagal division through prolonged exhale. It's very good. And then coming to the lower white box, can we see what are the consequences of dysregulation of the sympathetic and other functions which can happen, as I mentioned, anxiety. We find here that this mentions dysregulation of the sympathetic, hypothalamic, pituitary and executive functions, which often happens as a consequence of prolonged anxiety, can result in total mental health disruption and even a risk of suicide. So this is why it is good to regulate the sympathetic nervous system, not only for its consequences on the physical body, but on mental health aspect. And as I have tried to present this brief overview, yoga breathing practices can correct the autonomic dysfunction and other, not just through autonomic mechanisms, but also through some other subcortical and cortical mechanisms influence the emotion. With this, I come to the end of my presentation. I thank the organizers for this nice conference that has been organized and given people an opportunity to speak about various applications of yoga during and after the pandemic.
Thank you, ma'am, for elaborating such a detail about all the hypothalamus and motor and axis, how this axis is involved in the case of the stress, and how whenever the stress are the main culprit for all the disorder, as we are still aware of that the new science which are emerging at present in this country is called the psychoneurology, how the stress will affect on the immune system. So that's a very, very important thing. तो आप सबको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आज के सेमिनार के जो आयोजन में आप सब लोग आए। मैं मंच अजीज को दे रहा हूँ आगे के अनाउंसमेंट को। धन्यवाद,
बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। यहाँ पर हमारा लंच ब्रेक होता है, मध्याह्न होता है ना। कुछ अनाउंसमेंट है, आप सभी अपने स्थान पर भी बैठे रहेंगे, है ना। लंच का पैकेट यहीं पे आएगा, आप यहीं पे लंच करेंगे और लंच करने के बाद लंच पैकेट डस्टबिन में रखेंगे, ठीक है। तो थोड़ा सा समय लग सकता है क्योंकि सर्व करने वाले लोग कम हैं, लेकिन आप लोग भी योगी हैं, है ना। वीरता का परिचय देते हुए अपने अपने स्थान पर बैठे रहेंगे, है ना। वॉशरूम है वो एक ही साइड है और एक ही साइड की। तो जब तक सर्विंग होती है आप चाहें तो वॉशरूम का यूज कर सकते हैं, और बाकी सभी लोग अपने स्थान पर बैठे रहेंगे। जो ऊपर है वो ऊपर ही बैठे रहेंगे, वही सर्व होगा, जो नीचे है वो नीचे ही बैठे, ठीक है। और